Abibu France Oliver. Okay, I'm going to queue up Hakoin's lecture. Let me know if you guys have any issues, so I will address them at that time. Hakoin's lecture is queued up. Let me know if you have any issues hearing it, and we can make adjustments.
Rabbi Simon, okay. Hakoin, I'm going to pre-record this lecture. The idea here is that from what I hear in the East is that tomorrow, or at least this is being recorded obviously in the evening on Friday, and what I'm told is that tomorrow, because there's a special, a certain holy day in the Muslim calendar, so therefore sometimes what the country people do is the securities, they shut down the internet so that there's no trouble and people don't try to cause terrorist type incidents, blowing up places and things like that. Because I believe that those things have happened in the past where there were gatherings and people tried to do some nasty things. So because the internet might be shut down till 10 o'clock here our time, so I'm going to record this. If on the other hand the internet is open tomorrow, then I will do this live. Now, the Parsha today that we're going to look at is the Parsha called Tetze, when you go out. And what it talks about is when you go forth to war against your enemies, and Yahweh your power has given them into your hands, and you have taken them captive, and see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you find her attractive, they would like to have her to be your wife, then you shall bring her home to your base, and she shall shave her head and trim her nails, and she shall remove the clothing before being captured, and shall remain in your base, and have a period of mourning for her father and her mother a full month. And after that you may have sexual relationship with her, and become her husband, and she shall be your wife. The second part of this particular same chapter talks about if a man has two wives, one beloved and another loved less, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the loved less, and if the Bechor son was on the one that was loved less, then it shall be when he makes his sons to inherit that which he has, that he may not make the son of the beloved Bechor, the firstborn, before the son of the loved less, which is indeed the Bechor firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the son of the loved less, for the Bechor. Now, just to make clear that I don't think I need to spell it out that we, in Israelites, ancient Israelites, and some modern Israelites as well, they have plural marriage. It's always been the case that people had more than one wife in the ancient times, hence why we had so many children in the ancient times. Now this passage is talking about two separate incidents, in one which a man has two wives and he is not to mistreat the first over another, and the first passage talks about if you go out to war, you leave your country or you leave your city, and you find a beautiful woman that is of the opposite, enemies, and you like her, then you're allowed to bring her home, give her time for mourning. If she has lost relatives, give her time for mourning, and you can take her as a wife. Now, I don't want to focus so much on the plural marriage aspect of this, but what I want to focus on is something totally different. What the passages are talking about is, they do talk about marriage as such and how to treat people, but more so than that, they are talking about justice. How do we deal justice to the nations? This is really talking about a national justice amongst the nations. So, for instance, as the children of Israel, when we're in the nations or when we're going to war, obviously if we go to war, we may not be in the country, we may be out of the country. And we may like somebody outside the country, or we may be going to fight with enemies that are outside our nation, possibly on our borders, possibly outside our borders, in their borders, etc. And so these kind of situations apply because both are kind of side to side. From verse 10 to 14 is one situation, 15 to 22 is another situation where it talks about verse 15 to 17 is one situation with the two wives, and verse 18 to 22 is a situation of a rebellious son, where it says if a man has a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and that when they have chastened him, will not listen to them, then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him and bring him into the elders of the city, into the gate of his place. Now, these are three separate situations. Each situation calls for justice. And how do we pursue justice? Because the Torah does tell us, and I think we spoke about it last week, it says, justice, justice you shall pursue. So we must pursue justice in all areas of our life. Here is speaking about three separate incidents that could occur in any family. Now, one of the other questions that you may ask is, what if the parents are rebellious? What if the son is righteous, he is not rebellious, and what if the parents themselves are not right ruling or righteous? Then what? Because what is the son to do? Because it could be reverse of the situation. So you could have two situations. You could have one situation where the son is unruly and he is bad to the parents, and they have to take him to the elders. What if the parents are no good, and the son is trying to deal with them? So in that situation, if a son is righteous and the parents are not, maybe the parents don't believe in what the son believes in. Maybe they're not in Torah. Maybe they're in totally different areas of their life. So what do you do? And I guess if the opposite is true, then the son would bring the parents to the judges, to the elders of the gate, or he may come and complain about them and say, look, my parents are like this, and what do I do about it? So both situations apply in this particular instance. The same thing with the wives. A sin is not to be committed, where justice has to be meted out properly according to the Torah laws, and we have to always seek a righteous judgment. Now, even more so, it says here, when you go forth to war against your enemies, and Yahweh your power has given them into your hands, and you have taken them captive. Now let's just stop there. And I want to now run this into another picture, totally different picture. When we want to attain our desires, then of course, technically, what are we doing? Technically, spiritually, we are at warfare. You see, warfare requires discipline. And this is what I want to talk about a little bit about discipline as well. Discipline would mean that maybe in your life, you've set yourself some goals, and those goals require you to do or take certain actions, execute certain principles, certain actions, that those goals may become yours. So here actually, if you think about it, when it says when you go forth to war, one other way to see it is to see that you want to attain something in your life. Call it whatever you wish. Call it a house, call it wealth, call it $1 million, call it $10 million, call it, fancy cars, anything. So you may start with nothing. So you may come with $5 in your pocket, and you say, you know what, I've got $5 in my pocket. And you've heard stories like this. If people have started with $5 in their pockets and then they became billionaires. So then, you say, I've got $5 in my pockets, I'm going to go to war with my, who's your enemy? Your enemy is technically, classed as Satan. But what is Satan? Satan is your own self, your doubts, your fears, your worries. That is Satan. Don't search for Satan out there in the skies. If you're searching for Satan out there in the skies, you may have trouble finding him, because you might need to use binoculars and look up in the skies, and you don't see this red figure with horns on it and holding a spear in his hand. You may not see that. So what is the war here? The war is against yourself, against our flesh, because against our doubts, against our fears, against our worries. Because when we want to get something in life, we have all these things. We have fears, we have doubts, we have worries, we have, also we may have other things going on too. So this passage can be applied in both ways. It can be applied really succinctly in this way, that it says that Yahweh of power, the creator out there, the universal creator, the creator of the whole universe, He's given our enemies into our hand. What is your hand? In the Hebrew it's yad. So it tells us that He's given those things into our hand. Well, if he's given the things into our hands, then surely, what is it hinting towards? I think we need to really look at this. If Yahweh has given something into our hands, then theoretically we're already there. Means that we don't have to actually struggle. We don't have to go look. And technically, in Deuteronomy 21:10, and I like to look at that portion of it. It says that He's given them into our hand. So, what does it actually mean? What does it actually mean? That's a very, very good one. It says, Tetze la milchama al ovecha on tano, and then it uses the word Yahweh, and you may have the word Adonai in some of the translations. On tano Yahweh Elohecha bayadecha ve'shavita shivu. So, He's given them into our hands. Yad, as you know, is a word for hands. The Yod is the leading character there. So, Yod, as you know, can also, if we look at the Yod character, that is the character of the eye. The picture is of the eye, the ancient pictorial. So, the pictures of the eye, what is actually saying, is actually talking about the art of imagination, and it is talking about the art of acquiring things that you want. So, God is saying that I've already given it into your hands. In other words, believe it that you have attained it in your hands, and it is yours. It is already yours. You've taken it. It's in your captivity. Now, it's described here as a woman. And as I said, we're going to take the other meaning of this, and not the traditional meaning that it has, because Torah has 70 faces, 70 interpretations. So we're going to take the meaning here that, if it's in my hand, and it says that if you see someone beautiful, okay, it's described as a woman, and it's given all the woman characteristics, but then so is Israel. Israel is described as a woman many times, given woman characteristics, and then, God says that this is my bride. So here what we're going to see is it could be anything costly. This woman, this object, or this thing, it could be an object, could be a beautiful car, it could be a beautiful house, it could be a business worth millions of dollars, it could be anything. So God says that I've given it into your hand. And the word it describes the hands is actually telling you that you can see this. You can see this in your hands. You can see it having attained it, captured it, received it. These are the exact same words that you will find in Jesus of Nazareth when He said to the people in the book of Matthew, when He spoke about this, and He said, when you believe it, by faith, He said, believe it and receive it. This is actually telling you the same thing, but in a different kind of way. That you see it with your eye, that you've received it. And once you've received it with your eye, and how do we see it with the eye? Of course, it's imagination. There is no other way to see it. So you'd imagine that desire that you have, whether it's a business, you'll imagine that you're having that business, you're running that business, and you have people working for you, you have some of your friends congratulating you on how great a businessman you are, and of course you're going to have the right affirmations to go with it. Maybe your affirmation is that I'm a property tycoon. Maybe you're into the property real estate business. Maybe you're into some other business. Maybe you're into selling cars. Then you can have I am the owner of a car sales business, making $5 million annually, etc. You could be selling luxury cars. So the point is that it could be any business. So you would see this with your real eye. Your real eye is technically your imagination. So you see it with your imagination. And verse 13 says, you shall remove the clothing before being captured. And she shall remove the clothing before being captured, and shall remain in your bite, and have a period of mourning for her father and her mother a full month. 30 days. It is actually giving you 30 days of imagination. 30 days of, having this thing in your hand, this object, whether that is an object as a wife, whether that is, when I say object, I mean, in a kind of like tangible terms, not that a woman is an object, but, object could be a car, a home, a business. So in tangible terms, talking about an object, and it talks and it says that you have this object, and you see it with your mind's eye. In other words, your third eye, your eyes. Your third eye is going to look into this. You're going to place it. You're going to visualize it every day. You're going to imagine it. And then it says this. It makes a really interesting twist. It says, and she shall remove the clothing before being captured, and shall remain in your bite. In other words, I'm going to do this in my house. I don't need to go anywhere to do it in my house. Have a period of mourning for her father and her mother a full month. Okay? So, and after that you may have sexual relationship, or you may know her. It might say in the other words, you may know her. Sexual relationship with her and become her husband, and she shall be your wife. Whenever we acquire something, let me give you a little interesting hint. When we acquire something, we actually become that thing's husband. So if I acquired a wife, of course I don't marry the car. If you acquire a wife, you marry the wife. But if you acquire the car, you don't marry the car. But technically, the car is in your possession. It's yours. Technically, from a worldly perspective, you're the husband of the car. Technically, if you think about it, you're the husband of the business, or you're the husband of the. If you have a family, with a wife and several children, then you're a husband to the wife, and you're a father to the children. So we've got to look at it in a husband here. Technically means headship. So whatever business you own, you are the head of that business. And whatever that business is beautiful, it's a business that you nurtured, you cherished it, that technically is like a wife to you, and it would be what I would classify as a object of desire, object of beauty. Because, it's going to give you joy, you're going to have delight in it. And it even goes so far as verse 14 to say that if you have no delight in her, then you shall send her off where she will. Now, of course, in the real world, we don't do that. We don't just get a woman and stay with her 3 days and say, that's it, I've had enough, I'm sending you off. We don't do that. So it doesn't actually mean what you read, in the sense of, even if it was a real woman, you don't just take a woman and send her off in 3 days. This is a little bit more complicated, technical. When you espouse yourself to a woman, then you espouse yourself in some seriousness, that you want to be with her for a very long duration of time, where you want to be with her and you want to nurture that relationship. In this particular instance, this is talking about, if we apply it to our object from a typology, from a shadow type, if we apply it to our object that we are desiring, like a car, like a business that's worth $10 million, or some other thing that you desire, maybe expensive phone, maybe expensive watch. And then it says that if you have no delight in her, means that in the business, means that in the object that you desire, then you'll send her off where she will. In other words, you have the ability to discard that business. Now, let's say you acquired a car sales business, and you run it for 3 months, and you find that, hey, it's too much work. You've got to make sure the mechanics are there. You've got to make sure the garage is open on time. You've got to make sure that the cars that are coming in are serviced on time. You've got to make sure that the customers that come in to buy the cars, they are sold cars that they're looking for, or that you have the right stock. And you may find that that's a whole big issue. In other words, you may find it's too much headache. Oh, I've got to go do this, I've got to do that, I've got to make sure everything is in place. And you may find that actually this is not the business you wanted. Although you acquired it, you did your imagination, you got the money, God gave you the money, you bought the business, and that becomes your livelihood. And now you decide, you know what, this is too much work for me. I don't want it. I'm not delighted with this business. So you send it. So you give it away. And that's basically, that's the other way to look at it in this particular Parsha. Now, Of course, it goes on to describe other things in chapter 22 about your brother's ox, if it goes astray, and so on and so forth, and what you have to do with that. If it then also talks about if any man takes a wife and has sexual relation with her and hate her, and show hatred towards her and brings up an evil name upon her and say, I took this woman and when I came to her found her not a maid. This is all, ancient customs where the woman had to be virgin. I doubt this can be applied in the country of America or Europe today, because such things today don't occur in the West. They more or less still occur in the East. In the East, a lot of people will definitely not be happy to have a woman who's not a virgin. This is something in the East. So again, we don't apply it in the West in the wrong place, and we can always give it a spiritual form as well if we need to. So, see here in verse 19 says, and they shall fine him with 100 shekels of silver if a person lies about a woman and says that she is not who he claims to be, and he lied about her virginity, he was found to be a liar, and then he shall be he shall be brought shame upon himself, etc. These are kind of ancient customs that we lived in, and we certainly did these customs, but God set laws around them, so that the whole idea of the laws wasn't so much to bring shame upon the women or the men, but it was to protect. It was all about justice, to protect the women in our society. And unfortunately today as well, we may have situations where we are not being too careful about the women that we take for granted as wives. We don't treat them right maybe, and maybe we mistreat them. Those things can still apply. However, I want to put a different slant on this, because what I want to talk about is more justice, on the justice aspect of it, that why justice is so important in our society today. And in a society where there is no justice, there's chaos. And unfortunately, you may have seen some of that in the streets of America. And recently, where there's chaos, all over the place, people going on protests, marches, and other things. And of course, we got election on the horizon as well. So, coming back to my lecture on last week on judges, why we have judges in place, why we have the Kohanim, and why we have elders, rabbis, and so on and so forth, was one of the idea that I was talking about is for counsel. If you're trying to do something in your life and you're struggling, then you can go and get some counsel. And the counsel can be beneficial to you. A man, who's, a rabbi who's married can give you good counsel and put you, straight. Now, coming back to some of the other aspects that I spoke about in the last couple of lectures, was about discipline. Remember, justice and discipline. Now, discipline. I wanted to come back to the issue of discipline. Remember what I said was that in this particular verse it spoke about verse 10 of Deuteronomy 21, when you go forth to war against your enemies. So when we go to war against something that we want to acquire, we have to be very disciplined about it. Soldiers have to be very disciplined about how they train. Because if they don't train right, and they don't have the right mindset and the right commanders, they cannot win the war. So, when you want to acquire something in your life, one of the key principles that you're going to come across is discipline. Now, what is discipline? Discipline is this. Let's say that I told you that you have to do something 108 times a day, every day, for the next, 90 days. I tell you that you're going to do something 108 times every day for 90 days. Now, we spoke about the sounds last week, if you remember. We said the ma sound, we said the ah sound, and we said the ya sound. We said one of the sounds I explained to you a couple of weeks ago was the primordial sound, the word which has the ah sound and the sound in it. So the word has the primordial sound, and I remember I was telling you that languages over time they get distorted. So from Shalom, we went to Shalom. From Elohim we went to Elohim, etc. So our sounds got a little bit distorted as time went along. And remember I told you also that Genesis chapter 1, I said last time, was all about manifesting law. But a lot of people have just taken it for granted that all they want to see in there is creation, nothing else. They're only interested in how many days God created the world, and that's all they know, and that's all they care about. Although twain don't matter, they don't get anywhere with it, but they want to just worry about how many days God created the earth. But really that whole chapter is about manifesting law. Now, I developed a plate that Rabbi Kefa has, I believe, or may have some copies of it. I've got a copy over here, and I can send Rabbi Kefa some copies near time. And what the idea of that plate was, that you look at that plate, like a little copper stroke steel plate, and steel or copper, and you look at the plate, and you run your eyes across the Hebrew. You don't read the Hebrew. You run your eyes across the characters. And that builds your power for manifesting. That is the first chapter of Genesis. That's what it's about. Because you can use this to create for yourself things that you desire. That is what this chapter has the power to do that. But unfortunately, a lot of people have only made this into a chapter of creation of the world, and all they argue about is how many days did God create the world in. That's all they argue about. But it's actually not that. That's one of the aspects. But it actually has a much more important aspect of creation and primordial sounds. It has the primordial sounds in this chapter. So, Bereshit, bara Elohim, Alif Tav, Ha Shamayim, Va Et Ha Eretz. These verses have the primordial sounds in there. Elohim, primordial sound. Bara, primordial sound. Bara, primordial sound. Sheath, primordial sound of Shin. Then we have Ha, primordial sound. We have Shamayim, the Min sound. Very, very, very important sound. And then we have the word Eretz, the Z sound in there. So when we start to separate it, then we realize that actually the sounds are for creation. How do we utilize them? How do we use them? Well, like I said, you hold your 108 beads and you start chanting your primordial sounds 108 times. So you can do Ah, 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 Ah. You can do the Mim sound, Ma, 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 Ma. You can do the Oo sound, because the Oo sound is there. Oo, 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 and then you can do the sounds together. Like I said, or you can do slightly longer. Of course, when you do these, I would encourage you to, if you've got the time every morning, discipline. Remember, I said discipline. So if you are disciplined about it, you want something seriously in your life, you want to seriously manifest things in your life, you're about to create things, and then you go about doing these things. You create yourself a disciplined routine. You say to yourself, okay, this is my routine. I'm going to wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to wash my face, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to have my shower, I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to do this for 1 hour. And for 1 hour, I'm going to do all this. I'm going to do the primordial sound. I'm going to make sure that I speak my affirmations in the right direction, in the direction of the north. And you're going to say, I'm going to make sure that I light my candle, if you have a candle to light in the morning, or maybe you have to light your camphor. You light your camphor oil, or perhaps you may decide to use and burn a little bit of that little oven that I told you about, a little altar, that Havan Kund, that made of copper, brass. You have that, and you put your little wood in there, and you light up the wood in there a little bit, or maybe coal. You put a couple of coals in there, you light them up, and then you put a couple of drops of frankincense oil on it, and it makes a nice nice smoke. And then you put maybe a couple of drops of camphor oil, it makes a nice smoke. You put a couple of drops of myrrh, and it makes a nice smoke and nice smell in the room. It's beautiful smell in the house. It goes throughout the house. Maybe you hold that little container with something, or you put it in a plate, maybe put it on a plate, and you just take it in some of your rooms downstairs in your house, and make sure that your rooms have that aroma. You come and sit down, and you let the fire burn for 5-6 minutes, and you're happy with it. You're happy. And you got to do this after sunrise, by the way, after sunrise. And so once you've done this after sunrise, you're happy with it, and you're like, okay, I'm happy. I've done this in the home. I have this nice smell. I feel real good. I have camphor in the home, because camphor is great for removing negativity in the home. And camphor is also great for bringing positivity in the home, because remember, it removes negativity. So what comes in? Positivity. And also, if you burn camphor in a particular way, you can bring prosperity in your house. So how do you burn it in a particular way? What you do, you get some rose petals, and we're talking about real rose petals, not fake ones, and not the paper ones. Or you can dry your own rose. Plenty of sun in America. You can dry your rose and take the petals, and you can take 2 drops of camphor, put it in the petal, and you got to do this in your living room. You can either put it in that little altar that you little metal container that you have. If not that, then you can put it, on a big spoon, spatula, and then you can just light that up. Or what it will do is just burn very quickly. It will burn very quickly, and it will, give an aroma in the house. And it is really good for bringing prosperity into your house. So that is 2 drops of camphor oil, which you can easily purchase from eBay or Amazon, and only 1 rose petal. If you do that every day, 40 days, that's a task for 40 days. I would encourage you to do it daily. But if you do it for just 40 days, that will immensely benefit your home. That's one discipline that you need to look at. Second discipline that you're going to look at is, of course, your affirmations. Now, I say this to people, I deal with people who are ill all the time, and I remind the people that affirmations are there for your benefit. They're for your benefit, and if you have an illness or two, and you want to remove that illness from your life, then surely, you're going to set an affirmation against your illness, because you want to get rid of that illness. You don't want to carry that illness. And an affirmation, towards your health, you may use an affirmation that says, I have perfect health. Or you might say, two ways to say it. You can say 2 or more ways to say it, actually. One way to say it is to say, I am perfect health. I have perfect health. Or you can say, I am health. So when you say that, you're giving yourself already the impetus to heal your conditions. You may be suffering from little pains here and there, little things, maybe bigger things, and you can deal with them right with the affirmations. And you set your mind, because remember that passage we spoke about. Tetze was about capturing the enemy. Enemy could be anyone out there. It could be an illness that you're trying to subdue. So you can do it. Nothing says that you can't subdue that illness. So you write the correct affirmation for yourself, and you start practicing the affirmation every day. And you may also, want to be, maybe you want to be financially free. If you want to be financially free, then what would you say? You say, I have financial freedom. You say, I have financial freedom, or I am financial freedom. Those are great affirmations. I have financial freedom. I am financial freedom. So, again, you must be very particular about your words. And coming back to words, I wanted to speak about words because words have power. And these powerful words, when we misuse them, misapply them, they can come back and hurt us. I often hear, and here was something that I said to the people over here, that I heard this word from some people, and I told them off about it, and I said, don't do that, because all you're doing is you're affirming something of negative, and that's going to come into your life. Like, if you all the time said something negative to other people, it'll come into your life. Like, for instance, if you said to people, hey, I'm ill, I get ill often. Or if you said, I'm always getting the flu, or I'm always getting the common cold, then what you're doing is you're affirming a negative. Then you're only affirming it, and that was going to come back to you round and round and round. So what you should say instead is not say that you're always getting it, even though you may be prone to it, you can say it in a way that it will get it taken away from you, so you never get it. So you will say, although there's a lot of flu around, although there is a lot of common cold around, I am healthy, I am safe, I am health. You see how you can turn it around with your words. When you turn it around with positive words, even when there's illnesses around, or you might say, there's a lot of coronavirus around, but I am healthy, I am perfect health, I have awesome health, I have a great immune system. See, you start using words like that, it doesn't matter how much coronavirus you got around you. Your mindset, your brain, everything inside you is now geared towards keeping you healthy. So when you do that daily, when your speech, when that comes out every day, you're confirming the affirmation that you're healthy. And even though there's illnesses around you, but you're not getting those. And you will remain like that. So my advice to you is to watch your words, not to do those words. Especially also money-related words. I hear people over here saying all the time, oh, I don't have money, oh, I'm broke, oh, this, oh, that, I hear people say that all the time. And I tell them, don't do that. Don't say that, because all you're doing is confirming that you don't have money and you don't have a relationship with it, and you'll never get it. I had about an 8-year-old girl today. There was about an 8-year-old girl that came to me outside in the car, and she was begging for money. A beautiful looking girl. And I opened my window and I said to the girl, you should never beg for money. Never put your hand out. I said, look, little girl, don't beg for money. Don't do your hand with the palm up. Do your hand the other way to give somebody, not to take from somebody. I said, if you don't stop doing that, if you continue to open your palm up and ask for money, you will always remain poor. I told her, whoever told you to do this, don't do this. You're ruining your life by doing this. And she just stood there, didn't know what to say, because obviously her parent, her mother, whoever she was, she put her to do this, and she was just begging on behalf of the mother. And they're all doing it. Women are doing it, little children are doing it, they're all over the place. You're sitting in your car and they come around your car and they're begging for money. They want money. So I told her off. I said, no, you're not to ask for money. The only way you're going to come out of this poverty cycle is by not doing what you're doing. Because all you're doing is you're confirming that you are poor by doing that. I said, don't do that. I said, your whole life is in front of you, little girl. Don't do that. Because if you continue to do that, you're going to ruin your life. And you'll always be poor, and you don't want to be in that situation of going to people and asking for money. Because, now she's a little girl, and then she'll grow up, a young girl, and then, she'll get abused by other people. So anyhow, this is why, I wanted to focus on this and explain to you that, words are important. Make sure you know what words you use. And make sure to always use good words in your mouth. Always use great words in your mouth that are good for you. Even though you may have less money in your account, don't say, I have nothing in my account. Don't say like that. Always say, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am wealth, I am abundance, I am rich, I am riches. Always use great words. When you use great words all the time, you will become rich. You will have the money that you desire. If you remember the story about Jim Carrey was carrying a $10 million check in his pocket for 10 years. And if you remember that he wasn't a great actor, he didn't even start acting, and he went to get acting. He wanted to work in movies, and he put the check in his pocket that one day he will have that money. And then one day came when he had his breakthrough. Took a while, took a lot of hard work, took a lot of action, a lot of discipline. And when he got there, he was given the $10 million check for his movie. So it's not impossible. All of you can have abundance. All of you have the right to have abundance. All of you have the right to be rich. It's not a special club where only certain people are born rich. You can too, but you got to have the discipline, you got to execute, and you got to bring it home. That's why the analogy of the captive woman. You got to spread your net. You got to have discipline. You got to execute your plan, and then you'll have that. You'll captivate that woman. You'll capture that woman. That woman being your desire. So I leave you with this, and I say you have a great Shabbat ahead, and I'm going to pass it over to Rabbi Kefa. Have a great Shabbat and a great rest ahead. Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon Alter.
Todah Rabah HaKohen. Did everybody get the lecture? Everybody hear the lecture? Everybody heed the lecture? Baruch Hashem. If I can be heard, can I get a one? This is Rabbi Kefa ben Judah, coming to you live from San Antonio, Texas, where the heat is on. Todah Rabah HaKohen. Any questions on HaKohen's lecture before we move forward? While we have HaKohen in the room, do you have any questions about his lecture? Whilst the internet is still up and running on his front and they haven't shut it down. Any questions? Please let them be known now, or I will press on. I will continue on. And I wanna talk about a few things. I'm not gonna hold you too long today because a lot of events have been going on, as you know, here in North America. The hurricane. How many of you have family members that were affected in any kind of way by the Hurricane Laura? Anybody? Put up a capital L. Well, I'll tell you this, where this hurricane hit is exactly where I was brought up, in Lake Charles. Actually went to university in Lake Charles, and actually where they're having this, they had this chemical fire there in this town called Westlake, which is right next. It's like a cross bridge over, and then you're in Westlake. I actually went to high school there. I actually graduated from high school there in Westlake. So where Laura hit, I have a lot of family members there. As you all know, majority of my family members have stayed in Louisiana and have not left the borders of Louisiana. And so that area there is near and dear to my heart, as my upbringing, as well as you need to branch out and do other things and go out and see the world. And as I stated to HaKohen, I've been telling my family members for many years that they need to move to a better environment. I really don't understand, and maybe some of you in this room can help me understand. If you know that a particular area is prone for floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, like there's one particular area here in America, they actually call it Tornado Alley. If you know that an area is prone for that, then why would you continue to build? Why would you continue to? I really just don't understand that. I don't understand the logic behind that. Why would you continue to rebuild on a place where there's a high probability that you're going to have future storms that are let's just say natural events that will take place? This is why for many, many, many years HaKohen has been telling folks that live in California that you may want to relocate just based upon Mother Earth and what she has been warning Californians about for a very long time. I know some people have, probably brushed it off with a grain of salt, or some people they're definitely trying to make the moves. Whether you're in this room or not, it doesn't. You don't have to be a Israelite or descendant of the Hebrews to understand that that maybe California is a place maybe where you don't want to be. Not that you're running in fear from things, but you have to face reality and stare reality in the face and see it for what it is. So I've been really assisting on that front to get my family in a safe place temporarily so that they can sort themselves out and do the necessaries that they need to do. Now, as you all know, the universe, powers, has a way of sending you warnings. How many of you understand it? How many of you have been given just little nudges, little warnings? I tell you, this is I'm going to tell you something that's that just happened to me this week. I was in a dead sleep, and I kid you not, I felt someone tap me on my shoulder. Not just a little tap, but a nudge, like a really hard nudge. This is about like maybe 3:30 in the morning. And I just felt this, like somebody took their finger and just imprinted their fingers in my shoulder. I'm like, what the heck? So I wake up, and then, I had the urge just to go check my Forex account. And sure enough, Miss Fahad, that was a warning sign. Sure enough, I checked my Forex account, and I had one of my trades, one of my favorites I like to go to. My favorite pair is the GBP USD. And it was in profit, big profit. So I cut the profit, and I was like, Baruch Hashem. And I'm thinking, what if I wouldn't have got up to, and sure enough, as soon as I cut the profit, I go back and I check it a few hours later, and sure enough, the trade reversed in the other way. And if I would not have gotten up with that little nudge, I would have been in drawdown. I would have really been in the negative instead of cutting a positive trade. So it's very important that you understand when Mother Earth, when powers, when whatever you want to call it, Mother Nature, or when you get an urge, or you actually get warning signs that you probably need to make a move, or you probably need to take some particular action, I would encourage you to go with it. And don't explain it away as, like many folks do here in North America, everything is the devil. The devil did it. Oh, I rebuke you, Satan. No, that's not Satan. That could be telltale signs. And this may not only happen one time. It may be that you are afforded several opportunities, several warnings, I would call them, or several precursors. Like, okay, you need to go do this, I would encourage you to start listening to that, because time will run out on you quickly. The period may run out on you to where, okay, time's up. No more opportunities anymore. You've been given several opportunities. You haven't taken heed. And then now the thing that you dreaded the most is now staring you in the face. Why? It's because you didn't take heed to what you were supposed to do. And let me as Pharaoh exits stage left. Now, it's very important that we do understand that, and that we do recognize this. This experience that I'm talking about, how many of you have experienced something to that level? It may not be a nudge on the shoulder. I'm telling you, it's like Hakoy just come and just touch my shoulder kind of hard. I was like, what the heck? I need to get something. I got to get up and do something here. Something needs to be done. Daniel's saying that happened to me as well, Chief Kefa, in the Forex front, waking up early to take heed, Baruch Hashem. And I'm telling you, it may not be in the currency market, but it may be a nudge for you to relocate, a nudge for you to take a career change, a nudge for you to in a relationship. It could be in many different areas. To that for your responses, by the way. Now, it would be beneficial for you to heed those. I would even call it advice. That's advice given to you from powers. Heed the advice. Heed the assistance. I wouldn't really call it warning, but more or less, to me, it's more like advice. Now, whether you accept the advice or not, that's on you. That's your choice. But the advice has presented itself to you in such a way Some of you may say, well, I'm of two minds. I don't know whether I should take this one or that one, or this man or that man, that woman or this woman. I'm of two minds. And this is when just like Queen talked about, it's important for you to, you can either handle it on your own, or you can go to an elder, you can go to a judge and get some guidance and assistance that will help you and push you, get some what we called earlier, advice that will push you in the right direction. So, how many of you have seen the destruction of what took place there, destruction of homes and things of this nature that took place with Laura? Anybody seen any of that video footage on television? Anybody seen that? Has anybody even watched any of the destruction? You seen what a hurricane can do? Anybody? Please respond. Well, for those of you that have seen it, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you see the evidence of what a hurricane can do? I tell you, you know what the first thing came to my mind was gratitude and thanks. I was just so grateful for where I'm located, for where the Master, the powers of Israel has placed me in this location, to where, like I talked about, you're not wanting to hand out, but you actually you're actually giving help, and that's my stance right now, that I'm able to have the ability to help and not to have my hand out for assistance, but I can actually give assistance. Baruch Hashem. So I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful. And believe me, do you not think there's a lot of people right now with their hands out? I guarantee you there is. So I'm just like totally grateful, totally happy to where the Master has placed me. In this placement where I'm located here in San Antonio, Texas. We never get none of that. There's people coming up from Corpus everywhere, and they see San Antonio as refuge. As a place, as a city of refuge where they can come and they can have shelter and get food and clothing and situate themselves so where, like Queen talked about, they can come up with a game plan. It's very difficult to game plan when you're right in the mix. How many of you have watched war stories or things like that? How many generals and officers, how many of you seen them make game plans on the fly? Like, okay, now that we're in the midst of this war, now it's time to plan. No, they always plan prior to it. You'll see it in the movies. They'll have these mock layouts of the location. They'll say, okay, well, these troops are going to go here, and they'll have these little model diagrams. How many of you have seen it? That's called proper planning. We had this saying in the military: piss poor planning will give you poor results. So you need to plan, and you need to plan properly, and you need to plan in advance. And so it's very, very important that you do plan. But you must plan from a position of peace, a position of what? What our coach has been talking about, a position of quiet. A position of silence is the best planning in the world, right? Because your mind and your subconscious, you can use your mind for the wonderful tool that it is, and you can begin to think properly. But most times, folks are coming from a position of chaos and destruction. And then they say, well, now I need to plan. What's my plan? And they can't plan properly. And then they'll come to you and say, Rabbi, I'm confused. You know why? It's because you're trying to plan, or you had no plan, and now you're trying to plan in the midst of chaos. Note that our forefathers, before we went to war, what did we come with first? We always came with peace. We came with a petition of peace. Hey, can we just make peace? Can we just, agree to disagree? I tell you, that's my desire for North America right now. If that we can all just come together as human beings and agree just to disagree. And we can still, have tea and crumpets together, or sit down and share a Hershey bar. Because we can agree to disagree. You don't always have to agree with me, and that's okay. I agree with you not agreeing with me. But you don't have to get, Hulk Hogan on me and start tearing up stuff and want to body slam me because I take a different stance than you take. There's no need for that. Don't need Andre the Giant in here trying to pick me up and throw me out of the wrestling ring. There's no need for that. Because if you didn't know, I'm like Muhammad Ali. I fly like a butterfly, but I sting like a bee. Baruch Hashem. May he rest in peace, Baruch Hashem, Muhammad Ali, as I invoke him. I tell you what, I really love that boxer. He's one of my favorite boxers in the whole world. So it's very, very important that we do understand that. It's very, very important that we come from a position that when we make our planning and we come up with our decisions, note that when I was awakened, I was in a position of peace. I wasn't, putting in IVs or getting ready to, doing CPR and I got a tap on the shoulder. No, it was when I was in a place of peace, a place of silence. That tap came to me. And the same way, when I come into the knowledge of who I am, was when I began on that road, it was from a position of peace. And then a position of quiet as I was in that prayer closet. Like the King James Version says you're supposed to do. Go in that prayer closet and close the door. That's what I did. Literally. I took those verses literally. Now, and I'm so grateful that I've come so far that I realize that it's not about the verses, but it's about the letter of the law that's important. Because how many of you know, if you get bogged down in Judaism, all it is a bunch of commandments here, there, and everywhere. But there's no letter to the law. It's all about just the law. It's the law, the law, the law, the law, the law. And I tell you what, they shackle you with the law to where you can't move on. To where Shabbat is a labor. Shabbat becomes a burden. How many of you know what I'm talking about? I mean, I was walking on eggshells on the Shabbat at once in Judaism. Man, my goodness. Ooh, can't do that. Gotta flick this off. Can't do this. Oh my goodness. And that's what happened. When, like President Trump talked about, that's all we need on the face of this earth is more lawyers. I mean, have you heard that? As you listen to him make his acceptance speech to run for president another 4 years, he goes, yeah, that's all you need is more lawyers. That's all you just need is just more lawyers. That's all you need. And he's right. You don't need more lawyers because more lawyers give you what? More different interpretation. Again, if we stay universal and stick to the judges that have been put in place, then you'll be okay. But when you start branching out and you start extending it, and then it's like the story with the monkeys. I was watching this with Dr. Sean the other day. What was that? We was watching what was we watching? Out of Africa or something we were watching. Madagascar, there it goes. Where the guy tells the monkey one thing on the monkey chain. How many of you heard that? The guy tells one of the animals, I think it was the donkey, he says, hey, tell them that we need to do this. Tell them that tell them to raise the plane. By the time the monkeys begin to go up the chain and tell the story was totally different from what the guys had told them down there below. Total different story. You see, that's what you'll get when you begin to extend any kind of chain out. You lose the true essence. But Baruch Hashem, and I'm so grateful for the Kohen in the gate, that we have come back to the true essence of really who we are. Now, I want you to say this with me right now. I want you to say this. I want you to say, life is sweet. Say it right now. And say it not with conviction, but say it from your subconscious. Say, life is sweet. When I saw all these events that had occurred in my hometown, there in Lake Charles, there in Westlake, you know what first thing came to my mind? I wasn't feeling sorry for the people. I was like giving gratitude and giving thanks, saying, you know what? Life is sweet. Life truly is sweet, because at the end of the day, guess what? You still have your life. Possessions can come and go. You can manifest more possessions. You can create another house. But you cannot create another you. You see, that's putting things in perspective. And you know what? I take that back. Because you can create another you, right? I'm looking at Nakshan, and that boy looks just like me, my son. I'm telling myself, hey, I created another me. Baruch Hashem. So I stand corrected. You can create another you. You can create many yous, right? Baruch Hashem. How many of you right now have another you that you've already created? How many of you? I do. I have one. I tell you, that boy looks like the spitting image of me. I have another you. We were at Walmart the other day, and my goodness, Nachan can sit up in the cart now. So he's up in the cart. My goodness, he's up in the cart. This man comes up to us. Man, your son is. You have a beautiful son. I say, yeah, he looks like his father. I created another me. I say, he looks just like his. You have a handsome son there, sir. And then he comes over and he chats. This guy, he works there. He chats manager. He works there. He comes over and he chats with me. He's like, hey, I know, if you don't mind, we can talk person to person, father to father. He says, I'm the father of 8. I was like, bro, good him. He said, I'm the father of 8. So then he begins to give me some insight and some wisdom from being the father of 8. And I received his wisdom from being the father of 1. Baruch Hashem. So I think it's very, very important that we understand is that we have, there he goes. There goes the Lion King. So we have the ability to create on many, many different levels. As destruction is in your face. You see it on the news channels when you look at Laura. We have the ability to create. You can create your new house. You can create your new car. Yeah, the Lion King is roaring. He has a good roar, too. He looks just like his father. I tell you, I'm so happy. I'm so humbled. And so what these natural events that are occurring, what they do is they should humble you. They should make you have humility and give you a greater gratitude for what you have and where you're located in the world. That you do have security and that your home is not ripped up like you've seen in those videos, that you have watched that. I mean, that's just reality staring you in the face. Now, what are people going to do? They're going to pick up. They're going to gather themselves. They're going to, girt their loins, and they're going to get back to it. Some of them are going to build in the exact same place. Do I think that's wise? No, I don't. But who am I to judge them? Because guess what? At the end of the day, if they're happy there, if that gives them peace, living right on the water, then I say build another house. Right? Right? That's what I say. If that gives you peace, and if that's what you want, then if that makes you happy, hey, build on, put your house maybe on some higher pylons, build it higher, I don't know. Build it stronger, build it better, if that's going to make you happy. But me, see, we can agree to disagree. I'm going to find strategic locations that's going to be beneficial to my family, to my employment status, to upbringing of children, and education, employment, recreation. Got to have a good airport around. And at the same time, yeah, I like to be close to water. But, close is relative. I'm not trying to build right on the coast, but relatively close. You know what I mean? Where you get in your car, you can drive, and you can dip your feet in the water somewhere. Baruch Hashem. So it's all just relative, right? But you can't sit there and be judgmental and condemn folks for whatever stance they want to take. Location. You can advise them. Well, I would advise you to, like I'm advising my family right now, I would probably advise you to, when you get that insurance money, is to get you a better location somewhere. Somewhere where you won't have to every 10 years or so have to deal with something like this. Somewhere where you can really settle down and have peace of mind. Many folks don't have that right now in America, much less around the world, as events are cropping up all around the world. In China, they're sacrificing little towns to save cities. So they're flooding towns to save cities because there's so much rain. How many of you heard of that? Now that's going on too. You need to stay up on current events because they're very important. They make you remember who you really are and the power that you serve and how you can be thankful. And speaking of remembrance, it brings me to this. Before we get into remembrance, I want to continue on the statement, the affirmation of life is sweet. Now I'm going to read you something. Now I looked up the word sweet. Because how many of you like sweets? Any of you? Put up a capital S if you're a fan of sweets. If you're a fan of sweets, put up a capital S. I'm a fan of chocolates, man. I'm Chocolate City. You call me Chocolate City. You call me the Willy Wonka of the Jews. Call me whatever you want. But I'm a big fan of chocolate. Anybody in this room like sweets? Besides myself, to die for your responses, by the way. You like sweets. So I looked up the word sweet. And do you know, it's mentioned only one time. Now, this is according to the King James Version of the Bible. But it's mentioned only one time in what they call the New Testament. It's mentioned only one time, sweet. Right? And it's mentioned in the context when Mary Magdalene, as they call her, with her other family members, was going to anoint the master. They were going to go to his tomb and anoint him with let me read it just how they read it in the King Jimmy. How do they read the King Jimmy? King Jimmy reads it this way: as they were going to go in and anoint the master. I'll just paraphrase. They were going to go in and anoint the master. They're going to go to his tomb and talked about sweet spices. That's how the King James says it. But now, this is why it's so very important that you have the Hidden Truth He Breaks scrolls of the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, because it really gives you an essence of what sweetness really is. And what is, because first thing, when I think of sweet, right, I think of sweets. I think of chocolate. I don't know about you, but I just think of chocolate off the cuff. I just think of chocolate. You say sweets to me, a big Hershey bar, or Hakohin. I remember when he used to come from the UK all the time. He used to bring me the Cadbury. Man, this big old, just like brick of chocolate. Oh my goodness. I anticipated every one of his trips when he would come in when he was living in the UK. I tell you, the Cadbury chocolate. I tell you, I see that. That's what I visualize. But I want to show you something that's quite interesting in the translations. Because also when I looked at the King James, and I saw it mentioned at one time when Mary Magdalene was going to go and I think it's in the book of Mark. Yes, it's only mentioned, sweet is only mentioned in the book of Mark. The book of Mark, where she was going to go and she brought sweet spices to anoint the master Yeshua in his tomb with sweet spices. And so I said, okay, this all the time. Now, how many times is sweet mentioned in the Torah, which I found very interesting as well. And then what I really wanted to key in on is, when is the first time sweet is actually mentioned? And that brought me to Genesis, Bereshit, Genesis chapter 8, verse 21. And I'm gonna read from the King James first, so you can see the difference between the King James and the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, which is just tremendous. So the King James Version says this in Genesis chapter 8, verse 21. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more everything living as I have done. Okay? And what changed? What was the change in powers? It said, and the Lord smelled a sweet savor. Could that sweet savor have been chocolate? I mean, that would have come to my mind, reading it from the King James Version. But then I said, you know what? Let me juxtapose that with what we're told in our Torah. And so I went to Genesis chapter 8. I went there to Genesis chapter 8. And, of course, Genesis chapter 8, we're going to set the stage here. Let's begin reading from verse 15. Then Elohim spoke to Noah, Baruch Hashem, saying, go out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and your sons' sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing of all the flesh that is with you, the birds and the cattle and every crawling creature that crawls on the earth, so that they may abound on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. Baruch Hashem. Verse 18. So Noah went out, and his sons and his wives and his wives and his sons' wives and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Remember, Noah only took one wife on this trip, on the voyage. Look at verse 19. And every animal, every crawling creature, every bird, and whatsoever crawls on the earth, according to their mishpohot, according to their families, went out of the ark. So the floods have receded. So now everybody's coming out. You know, the ark has landed, dry land, Baruch Hashem. Look at verse 20. What's the first thing Noah did? Look at verse 20. Then Noah built an altar to Yahweh and took every clean animal and of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. This is key on many fronts, but let's keep reading verse 21. And Yahweh smelled a soothing aroma. Remember we read verse 21 in the King James. Now, what did Yahweh? He smelled a soothing aroma. Not a sweet smell, but look, a soothing aroma. How many of you know, I tell you, this is why I love the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. How many of you know when you burn that camphor, what does it smell like? It gives the house a soothing aroma, right? How come he talked about in his lecture when you burn the rose petals and all these different, what does it give off when you're burning these particular things? Like a soothing aroma, right? Not sweet per se, right? Not sweet. But you see, this is the difference in translation between, the King James Version, and then you get the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. This is why you listen to YouTube. I highly recommend, if you're a student of the Bible and you're studying the Bible, that you get that Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hidden Truth We Break Scrolls. It really enhances and gives you the intended meaning of life is sweet to me, but also life is a soothing aroma. Not only in what I say, because I am burning these aromas. Soothing aroma. That's what the master powers, Yahweh, he smelled a soothing aroma. I like that, right? Isn't that beautiful? Verse 21, and Yahweh smelled a soothing aroma. Then Yahweh said in his heart, you see, power smells something, and then you got his attention. You see what I'm saying? Remember we talked about giving advice and getting advice. But here you're getting the attention, another A word. You're getting the attention of powers. How are you getting his attention? By a soothing aroma. So what are we doing when we like these things? Because, you listen to many mentors out there, many teachers out there. They tell you to do something. Or like, you hear with the Christians, they tell you that, pastor said for you to do something. But how many of them ever ask why? Well, why? Why do I have to burn this? I mean, it's not a condescending statement, or it's not a confrontational type, statement. You guys, well, why do it? Daniel, when you take that trade, why are you taking? Are you just taking it on the whim? But you should have some whys. You should be able to respond to the whys of why are you taking that currency trade in that particular direction. Should be a why to it. Right, Akohi? When you take that stock trade, you just don't take it on a whim. There better be some why to why you taking that stock trade or whatever you may be doing. You got to ask why to back up and to affirm. Otherwise, you just do things and you're just doing them rote and you really don't understand it. And Hakoni talked about discipline. This is why you don't keep the discipline, because there's no why behind it. You're just doing it. And so it's very hard for you to keep up the discipline when you don't know why you're doing it. You understand what I'm saying? So it's very important that you know the why and that you ask the question why. You get many Christians that say, well, pastor said do it. I say, well, do you ever ask the pastor, well, why should you do it? And then it's like crickets in the room. Well, I never thought to ask the pastor why. I would encourage you to do that this next 6 days of labor. Is ask people, well, you're taking this particular action. Well, why are you doing it? Why? See, if you do get crickets in the room. But people need to know why. Because that why helps you what? Affirm what action you're taking. You see, you got to have some backup. How many of you want to be in a foxhole by yourself, or you want to be in a foxhole with somebody else? Because I'm telling you, this is important stuff. You may say, well, Rabbi Kefa, what does a foxhole have to do with? I mean, how many of you, it has a lot to do with it because it's coming right off our Parsha. How many of you want, how many of you, if you're in a foxhole, can you protect your front and your rear at the same time? You can't do that, right? You can deal with the front, but what happens if the enemy's coming from the rear too? You're going to get shot in the back or maybe in the buttocks, in the gluteus maximus, because you're concerned with what's coming on up front and, ahead of you. And my goodness, there's a whole bunch of people ahead of you, and you're trying to knock them off and you're trying to take them out. The enemy's coming from your front. Well, who's guarding your rear? You see, this is why it's always great to have two people opposed to one person in the foxhole. Because you can't guard your front and your rear at the same time. Very, very important. Because I tell you what, when you look at our history, you'll find this. You're going to find this out. And I'm gonna touch on this as well, because the Torah reminds us, and this is written in our Torah. Moses wanted to remind us in 2020 of this same relevance and importance. Is that we are to remember when you look at Deuteronomy chapter 24. Let's read. Where are we going to read from? Actually, let's go beyond that, because this is important stuff. This is at the end of the Parsha. Yeah, let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 25. Devarim chapter 25. Look at and started at verse 17. Remember what Amalek, there's many different pronunciations you can get. Amalek did to you, by the way, when you come forth out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt. Remember. Why are we to remember that? Did anybody remember what Amalek? Anybody remember what he did? Can anybody in this room tell me, family, what happened to our forefathers? Anybody tell me? What did Abimelech, what did he do? Abimelech, what did he do? Can anybody tell me? Anybody remember in our history what happened? Because we're told in our Torah to remember this. To remember. Let's keep reading. The Torah will explain to us exactly what happened in our sojourning, in our journey. It's very important that we remember this. Look at verse 18. How he met you by the way and tried to cut off the rear, even all that were tired behind you, when you were faint and weary. And he feared not Elohim. Now do you remember what happened? How many of you remember that in our history? That circumstance, that event in our history now? Anybody with me? Anybody on board now? You remember what happened? Remember I just talked about, just like our Kohen said, he attacked from the rear. Remember I told you about the foxhole? You're like, why do I keep talking about? This is why. Because if you're defending the front, you're strong in the front, but you have nobody behind you, what happens? That's where the enemy going to try to come in. He's going to come in not from your strong point. He's going to try to hit you from your weakness. This is why it's very important that we stay disciplined. And we remember from our forefathers that we don't get what? What does Torah say? We don't get tired, don't get faint, don't get weary. And you know what helps you not do that? When you understand the why, what you're doing, and why you're doing what you're doing. And why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you affirming? Why are you burning this soothing aroma? Why? Oh, because Hakohen says so. If that's the reason why, then you know better than the Christians. Well, because Pastor said, that's the same old mundane routine. No, you should know why. The judge is going to tell you why. Well, why should I do this? It's so that you don't faint. And so that you don't get weary. And you know why? So that you do meet your marks, whatever you desire for yourself. And when you begin to know why, well, I'm doing this, and you want to know why? So that you can get the attention of powers. You want to get the attention of powers, don't you? Hey, how many of you know, and how many of you are a big fan of Snoopy and Charlie Brown, the Peanuts? How many of you grew up? I still watch the Peanuts today. Me and Sean were just watching the Peanuts just the other day. How many of you are a big fan of the Peanuts? Charlie Brown and all the gang, and Snoopy and Linus and all of them. Anybody with me? Because I don't want to be talking to just myself here. I want to make sure I don't, I'm not predating anybody or post-dating anybody. But you got to watch the Peanuts. That's some great cartoons, man. Classic, right? Classics. Well, anyway, there's a character on the Peanuts. How many of you know that bad smells can get your attention quick, right? What's that character on the Peanuts that this guy, he's just, every time he walks, there's dust all around him. And everybody kind of stays away from this character. You know which one I'm talking about? I can't remember his name. But, they still play with him, but they keep that distance from him because he's just dusty and he's dirty. That's every one of the episodes that I watched, he got clean one time. I was watching this new one that they have about him, and just so happened that some water got spilled on him, and he was actually clean. And then nobody could recognize him because he was so clean. But anyway, majority of them, he's always dirty. Smelly too. Because every time he gets around the other children, they'll kind of get away from him. Well, what Hakohen is teaching us and what we're learning and the why behind why we like these soothing aromas is to draw the attention of the powers to us. We're told there in Genesis that Pigpen, there you go, Pigpen. And so Pigpen would draw people away from him, not to him. So this is just the reverse here. So we want powers drawn to us, and we want to get the attention of powers. You understand what I'm saying? So this is the why. So when you lighten that, and you say, well, why the heck am I doing it? And discipline starts to fade, and you get a little weary, you get a little faint. And you ask yourself, because I'm telling you, your mind is going to want to ask you this. You know what? Logic is going to start to ask you. You're going to say, well, why the heck are you doing this? And then you can respond. You see, because logic going to try to come in from the backside. You say, well, why the heck are you doing this? From your so-called supposedly weak side. But you know what? You got backup at the back too. You're not in the foxhole by yourself. And then you can come with the response. Yes, because I'm getting the attention of powers with a soothing aroma. You can even say sweet smelling savor or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But when you say soothing aroma, that gets my attention. And that's what we try to do. That's what we're doing. We're getting the attention. We're not trying. We're doing it. We're getting the attention of powers. We're drawing the universe to us, not away from us. We're not trying to be Pigpen, right, Daniel? We're drawing powers to us. And that's the beauty. How many of you have seen in your life physical presentation and evidence on the ground that people have been drawn to you? Literally drawn to you or attracted to you. The people that you don't even know, or maybe you know them, but before they wasn't attracted to you. Now you start, put up a capital A if that's you. Now you're starting to see people that are drawn to you, whilst others may not be drawn to you. You're actually seeing that in your life right now. This is real life, reality, physical evidence. Baruch Hashem. I give thanks for that. That people are drawn to you in their time of need, in their time of want, or just out of great relation, that they're drawn to you. And they ask you questions. And you may agree to disagree. Maybe they're not from your background. Maybe they, socioeconomic status. But again, you guys have an awesome and a great relationship at whatever level that relationship is. And believe me, if you're supposedly Israel, people are supposed to be drawn to you because people are drawn to light. I'm going to tell you that right now. if insects and bugs can be drawn to light, you don't think people are going to be drawn to light? People are going to be drawn to it. So I would encourage all of you who didn't respond to begin to really assess your environment. And really note your environment, students of human nature, and see that people are drawn to you. And give thanks for that. That's a part of your DNA. And people will be drawn to you. Sometimes positive and sometimes negative, but people are going to be drawn to you. They may not like you, but they're still drawn to you. And they want to hear from you. And maybe they're drawn to you because you're silent. I don't know. But they're just drawn to you. And they have a question for you. And they want to ask you something. Don't shoot them down. Don't condemn them. You show them love and compassion. And humility. And they'll keep coming back to you. Because, believe it or not, that's a part of their DNA too. They just can't see it. It's just been covered up with a bunch of mumbo jumbo and conditioning and all that. To tell, and they've been directed and guided that they have to be a certain way when they don't. When all they have to be is the I am. They have to just be themselves. Be who they want to be. Be who makes them happy. You're going to find that as students of human nature. Just like you students of this Bible. You got to be students of human nature, because guess what? The Bible is all about human nature at the end of the day. It's not about a bunch of commandments. It's about how you get on in relationships with humanity, with people around you. People, plants, and pets, by the way. Because just like we read in the book of Bereshit, when Noah got off the boat, it just wasn't people that got off the boat with him, was it? It sure wasn't. It was pets. And then the dove brought back what? Brought back a piece of plant. Didn't the dove? And that was the clue, right? The dove brought back a piece of olive branch, was it? So, Baruch Hashem, people, plants, and pets covers it all. And it's a beautiful harmony when it all works well, but it's a disaster when it doesn't. So, we on the side of helping things work well, correct? We're on the side of as those that have been given dominion over this earth. And all of you on the face of this earth have been given dominion at some capacity. What are you doing with the dominion that you have? You see, if you want more dominion, then you have to exhibit, show your CV show your resume about what have you done with the dominion that you have been given control over? Have you multiplied or have you divided? Children of Israel, I beseech you. You're not dividers. You're multipliers. It's in your DNA. It's who you are. It's in your covenant that you have with powers, with the powers of Israel. That's just what it is. Paul, everybody's claiming all these other gods and these other powers, so be it. But we serve the powers of Israel. And we have the DNA of El Shaddai. And so we should be exhibiting that. Not only in our words, but more importantly in our actions and in our deeds. Now, I'm getting ready to close with this because we're going to go right back to our Parsha again, because I think it's very, very important that we see this as well. As this Parsha is telling us all about justice, as Kohen stated, it also reminds us several things. It tells us, look, and I specifically want to highlight, it keeps telling us to remember. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 18. But you shall remember that you were slaves in Mizraim, and that Yahweh your power redeemed you there. Therefore, I command you to do this thing. Now, I'm going to stop right there because, as a judge appointed by the Kohen in the gate, I get several phone calls. People call in and they have questions and blah, blah, blah. And they have a lot of questions and concerns about many things. All their questions are legitimate, so they're not blah, 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 because they're legitimate questions as they see them. And they're important questions to these persons as they see them. But just like our Kohen stated in his lecture, I want to remind you of this one thing that the Torah continues to remind us of. and verse 18 of chapter 24 of Deuteronomy. But you shall remember that you were. But you shall remember that you were. That's going to be the title of this lecture. Remember that you were Mishpahah. You see, because just like those phone calls come in, people, and you see it on YouTube a lot as well, is that people don't remember that they were, people still are slaves. They don't remember that they were slaves. The Torah admonishes us right here to remember that you were slaves. What does that word mean? That word means that you were a slave when? Now? Currently? No, that you were a slave in the past. But let me tell you something. Just like our Kohen stated, and he's given time and time again of examples of people on the face of this earth that still see themselves as slaves, still see themselves as worthless, still see themselves as poor. You can substitute that slave with many different things. And believe it or not, all those things are synonymous, that stem off the tree of slave. You can be a slave to poverty. You can be a slave to health, to ill health, right? So you must remember that you were. Didn't say remember that you still are. How many of you are witnesses and watchers to the fact that you can go to YouTube right now and they talk about the children of Israel like they still are slaves now? I mean, I'm telling you, that's what's being propagated. You see it all the time. Oh, we slaves, and no, I'm not nobody's slave. I did not pick one piece of cotton ever. I'm not nobody's slave. But they sit here and they propagate that and they run it through you to where you're conditioned after a while. Well, I am a slave. No, I'm not. Our Torah tells us that remember that you were. Because today some people still believe that they are. And they may not say it the way I'm saying it now, but you hear it in their syntax. Like Akoni said, you hear it in how they speak. Oh, yeah, I've always had allergies. I've always had pneumonia. Every year I'm always getting the flu. Remember that you were. You see what I mean? How they see that they remember that they were is some believe that they still are. You know what I mean? You have to guard yourself against this as well. Because this enemy, he'll try to creep in through the back door. He won't come with a full assault on the front because he knows that's where you're strong. Nothing new under the sun, Mishpahah. The enemy will try to creep in at the back door, Ursula. So we have to be ready for that. Remember that you were, not that you are now. That's not you today. Because you're burning soothing aromas to powers. And you're getting all your wants and desires met this day. Baruch Hashem. Because you know the why. And you know the how. And you know what you want. You know what you desire for yourself. Can anybody ever get tired of desiring? I can't. Can anybody see themselves getting weary of want? I can never get weary of want. I can never get tired of desire. Never. But you got to know the why. And remember that you were slave. You were. Not that you are. Don't ever consider yourself a slave. A slave to money. A slave to relationship. You're not a slave. Baruch Hashem. Remember that you were. I see that in my family members as well. Is that they see themselves still as nothing. With their hands out. And I can't be that. I'm not going to be that. You got your hands out, I'm going to put something in your hand. I'm not going to have my hands out with you. See, there's a big difference between the givers and the takers. I'm a giver. There's a big difference between the givers and the takers, Ms. Bahar. Big difference. You know, Hakoyin is teaching little children at the age of, in the age of 8 years old, on how they need to change their mentality. And I see that. Because that little girl is a 40-year-old, a 60-year-old still to this day. That has not changed, probably will not change. That mentality of how they think, of that mental thought process, of how they see themselves. Remember that you were Mishpahah. Remember that you were a slave, Baruch Hashem. And then that's not all. And then at the end of verse 24, at the end of chapter 24, look at verse 22. Torah admonishes us again. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Mizraim. Therefore, I command you to do this thing. You see, it's in our remembrance that we're commanded to do something totally opposite, so that we don't fall back into slave-like mentality. That's another reason why I burn the soothing aroma. I remember powers who took my forefathers out of bondage and slavery. I remember that. So I draw the attention to powers of Israel, to the God of Israel, to Master Yahweh. I invoke my forefathers and my foremothers, the queens of Israel. I can't just sit here and talk about the kings of Israel, because without that queen there would be no kings, Baruch Hashem. the queens of Israel as well. So that they can guide and teach me how to properly be just to my wife. I invoke my foremothers, Sarah and Rebecca, so they can teach me, and Miriam, so they can teach me how to be an awesome husband to my wife, and to meet all her needs and some, and to be that miracle man that my wife desires. And you know what? What's the affirmation, the conclusion, the affirmation, the manifestation in that is when your wife tells you that. She tells you herself, and you haven't even brought it up, and she tells you what you have been affirming as you light those soothing and light that fire to make those soothing aromas to the powers of Israel. I tell you, it's a beautiful thing when you sit here and hear that from your wife's mouth. You're the best husband. I wanted this my whole life. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, what's here? Like, honey, I wanted, this is the life that I've always wanted. I tell you, Mishpahah, there's just nothing like it in the world. Nothing like it on the face of this earth. Where does that come from? That comes from me knowing why I do what I do. Some folks may tell you, well, the why is not important. Well, if you don't want to get weary, you might want to know why. How many of you have ever fought a battle and you just fought the battle and you didn't know why you was fighting this battle? Anybody? Anybody? You fought a battle, or you actually got in a fight, but you don't know why you got it. You're just fighting. You're just fighting the fight. I remember I used to get in many fights. Why are you getting in fights, Rabbi Kefa? Because I got to protect my siblings. I'm the oldest of 5. You're not gonna do nothing to my siblings, man. Look, you're just not gonna do it. You're gonna have to fight with me. You're just not gonna hurt my siblings. So I would get in fights, no problem. It's all a part and parcel of it. Because I wasn't going to sit there and watch my family members get taken advantage of. Oh, Rabbi Kefa, but you're supposed to turn the other cheek. Again, that's when you're listening to the verses of the law instead of the letter of the law. Right now, Sean? You see, again, that's when they take your kindness for weakness, and that's not going to happen because we descendants of our forefathers, we descendants of the Hebrews, and we're not weak. We're very strong. Oh, there's the lion. He's back. Lion King is back. And so that's what we deal with, Mishpahah. It's very, very important that you understand that. Yes, you need to know the why, because the why is going to keep you from being weary and becoming weak and becoming tired, because those were the adjectives that were given. There's my lion. Roar. Those were the adjectives that were given to our forefathers, that were given in our Torah about, the people in the back, like Akoy talked about. They attacked from the back. Why? Because those were the adjectives. These are the weak people. These are the weary people. These are the tired people. Let's go get them. Well, what would have girded up the loins of those that were in the back? And you know why they were in the back? Because they probably had the mindset like this. Oh, my back is hurting, so I'm just going to be here. You see what I'm talking about? They were speaking all of the negativity. Oh, this hurts, that hurt. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I can't carry on. Oh, we've been walking for so long. The complainers. That's the ones in the back. Those that may have had some physical ailments, but then they let the physical ailments get to them to where they couldn't perform. Or they forgot why they were walking in the first place. It's because the powers of Israel had redeemed them. Don't you think that would have girded up their loins if they would have known, oh, I'm walking in the desert right now. It's because we've been redeemed. We won the battle. We won the war. But they didn't have that mindset. So the weakest were in the back, and they were being attacked. Baruch Hashem. That's what it is. And so we have to guard ourselves. And so you have to always remember that you were. Remember that you were. Now, Sean already knows he's a lion. He acts like a lion, talks like a lion, eats like a lion. My goodness. He's a lion. That's what he is. He's strong. He's not weak. You hear him talking to y'all? He's not weak. He's strong. And Baruch Hashem, he's going to always be strong. And he's going to move, just like I was taught by my Kohen, from strength to strength to strength. And get stronger and stronger and stronger. Guard against those weak points. Only you know your weak points. Only you know where you get tired sometimes. And our Kohen, you see how this all ties in my Kohen lecture? He talked about discipline. Do you have it? What's going to keep you disciplined? Know why. That'll be your fuel. When your discipline meter gets low, know why you're doing what you're doing. It's because of what I want. It's because of what I want. It's because of what I desire. And you keep moving. And before you know it, you're going to go from being in the back of the clans to being in the front. And you're going to go from being weak to super strong. And you're going to move from strength to strength to strength. From strength to strength to strength. You're going to move. Baruch Hashem. So on that note, we're going to wrap it up for the Shabbat. And I would encourage you all to remember and give thanks and gratitude for where you're located as you see, the devastation that takes place from Mother Earth, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it. It happens. Natural current events, they happen. Give gratitude, give thanks that you have food on the table. Your roof is on your house right now. Baruch Hashem. We give thanks. We show gratitude. And we remember that we were. But now we write who we are. We remember that we were slaves. But now we know that we're the I am. Utilize that as fuel. Get some wise. Get some wise so you don't get weary. Get some wise behind you. Maybe even write them down. That you can go to them every now and then when you start feeling weak and weary and tired. Well, why am I doing this? This is why. Because I want a better life for myself. Because I want a better house. Because I want a better car. Because I want better health. Because I want to leave a legacy for my son. Because I want to make my wife happy. Baruch Hashem. You see? That's how you do that. Right now, Sean? And so that's where we are. Baruch Hashem. Simha says today, our prayers are sweet aroma to the power's nostrils, especially when mixed with the tears and the right intention of the heart. I know another family in Texas and another family 20 minutes from California fire, and I was told that they will be safe. I got connected to you now. Baruch Hashem, Simha. Shalom to all. What is the title of the Rav lecture this morning? Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shalom to. Listen, the recordings will still go out, Simha. You haven't missed anything. You'll just be able to listen to the recordings on YouTube. Yeah, I haven't even mentioned the fires in California. Tadass Simha for mentioning that. There's major fires. I don't know if you noticed, Hakoim, major fires going on. Power outages in California. And so, yeah, keep that in mind as well. Again, the events of Mother Earth. The events of Mother Earth taking place. Baruch Hashem. So we give thanks. I give thanks that Simha is safe. And that she can be of assistance to others as well. So I'll love you and I leave you in the mighty hands of the powers of Israel. And I say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you. Have a great 6 days of labor ahead, and go forth and attract and be a light to the many nations that we are dispersed and scattered into. Baruch Hashem. Give thanks always to the powers of Israel. Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom. Over to you, Akohim. Open up any questions or comments, any assistance that's needed. Now's the time.
Toda for that, Rabbi Kefa, for that lecture. Okay, so just a little testimony. What are the chances that I would meet a man over here by the name of Moses? That is my go-to man. If I have any local issues, he's my go-to man. I just call him and I say, this needs to be done, and he just goes and does it. That's a new friend I made over here. Great guy. And he'll just come. I just got to give him a call, and he'll just turn up in like 10-15 minutes. Doesn't live too far away. And any problems I have, anything I want done, he knows exactly where to go to, and he knows who to speak to, and he knows what to get done. Away from all this fakery and all the fake things going on, and number two, things going on. He will get right to the heart of the problem, and he'll say, you know what, I know such and such person, he can do it this way, and he will get it done right, and then he will get it done. So really great guy, very good guy. He knows exactly where to go to buy meat. He knows exactly where to go to buy your chickens, where you can get good chickens, good beef, good meat, everything. This is the kind of guy. I made a friend over here, Baruch Hashem, and I said, what's the chances that his name is going to be Moses? A Muslim guy, and I was speaking to him the other day. He was a great guy. So great things happening around us. Baruch Hashem, Yahweh, we are alive, we are well, we are healthy. Really good. I mean, it's all about that. What is it about at the end of the day? Happiness is within. Happiness is not something you seek. Happiness is. So I hear the little lion cub over there, roaring in the home. That's great. Nakshan is roaring over there. So having said that, what's important over here in today's lecture? Well, the lecture is going to be titled Captivate, because you are trying to captivate your desires. You're trying to captivate your wants, your needs, things that you desire in your life to come to pass. So discipline is key, because without discipline, we're not going to achieve what we want to achieve. So I want to give thanks, because a lot of things are happening right now that I can't speak about. A lot of things are happening, and today, I did something today that I can't even talk about right now, because I did something that's absolutely so great that, I will write a book about this in the future, and then I will say what I did and how I did it. Because sometimes you're brought to a place and there is a bigger purpose in you, bringing you to that place. There's always a bigger purpose. God does not bring you to a place just for the sake of it. He always has a purpose
The God that we serve, the powers that we serve, always has a purpose. Here I've been dealing with a lot of people that, of course, they believe in the Messiah, Jesus as a Messiah, and I will be upfront to you that I do not teach that Jesus is the way to go to heaven. I do not teach that, because Torah does not teach that, and I cannot accept that teaching, because that teaching is against the Torah. And of course, the New Testament, the way it's worded, a lot of it is paraphrased, and a lot of the meanings are different to how Christianity takes it. So therefore, there is a lot of that going on over here, and I have to speak to people. In fact, it was about a week ago, maybe just over a week, I went to a family's home. They invited me. 4 members of a family, they converted to Torah Judaism. They converted to Torah, and they became members of the house of Israel, right in front of me. And these people came out of Christianity, they came out of so-called Messianism, Messianic Christianity even, and they're still dealing with this Jesus the Messiah factor. And I had to admit to them that I cannot teach that, because the Messiah that's going to come has to be the king, has to be physically born. This physical birth that we're taught. We actually read about this in the New Testament about the virgin birth, and the virgin birth is completely taken the wrong way. The virgin birth is a narrative. It's a way to explain manifestation law. It is not about a physical birth, a physical person, and physical things happening to that person. Whilst everybody, in the whole earth, whole world, has created a new religion and taken it to be something that's not meant to be. So, therefore, the problem is this, that you have 2 choices. You can be Torah-centric, and you can believe what Yahweh has said in the Torah, what God has said there, or you can be New Testament-centric. A lot of people in the world today are New Testament-centric. They don't care what God says in the Torah. They don't even care about it. All they care about is what Matthew says, and what Luke says, and what Mark says, or what Paul says. Yet, everything that Mark, Luke, Matthew write about is misunderstood and misinterpreted. So we must correct ourselves that the two are not compatible if you try to separate into separate, like, Jesus came and it saved everybody and now you're all going to go to Him. That's just not true. Because Jesus was not talking about a physical or a spiritual salvation. Every passage that you can pick up, and Jesus speaks about the manifesting law. People don't see it as a manifesting law. Because when He says in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes to the Father but through me, He's paraphrasing. He's basically saying that, look, I'm in your head. I am your subconscious. You have to go through me to get to the Father. That's all it basically means. It doesn't mean more than that. Jesus is just simply what I call a placeholder. And if you're going to take the placeholder and make it the object, then you're going to make many mistakes in your life. Then you're going to make many mistakes regards Torah. Because Torah law is very clear. That it says Yahweh is the only Savior. And it says that we are already redeemed. Many years ago we've been redeemed. When Abraham was alive, we were redeemed then. We were not even born. But Abraham was given the covenants, and we were redeemed through those covenants. We do not need to go to some church, some pastor, or even to some standing character today, or some spiritual character called Jesus. No, we don't need to do any of that. And that is what I'm dealing with over here. Because a Kohen has to teach the Torah. A Kohen has to guard the Torah. A Kohen can't go around creating and inventing new religions. So, I've dealt with a lot of people over here. Some of the people were not very happy. They were not very happy about what they had to deal with, because they don't have answers. They do not have answers to my questions. And when I answer their questions, they don't have they can't come up with counter objections. I ask them to show me counter objections. They don't have, because they can't. They've never dealt with a Kohen before. They've never dealt with somebody who has the knowledge to the level that I have. So this is their biggest problem over here. They've been dealing with pastors, with bishops, with faulty knowledge. And even yesterday, I was dealing with somebody last night, just before the onset of their Shabbat here, and I said, the guy said to me, what about Melchizedek? I said, what about Melchizedek? Isn't that another priesthood that's spoken about? I said, well, according to who? Did Yahweh say there's a second priesthood? Or did Christianity say there's a second priesthood? Melchizedek, I said, are two words in the Hebrew language, simply means righteous king. What's so special about that exactly? And so I said, you can't create a priesthood out of that. And then, he said, oh, but King David, remember King David, he ate the bread. He ate the showbread, and so therefore he wasn't supposed to. Well, wasn't he a priest as well? I said, no, he wasn't a priest. King David ate the bread, and so did King David's friends. So did his companions. Were they from the tribe of Judah? Or were they from different tribes? So I said, don't just look at King David, look at the others as well. They also ate the bread. They were not from the tribes of Judah. They were mixed. And yet they were allowed to eat the bread because they were dying. They were in hunger. And if they hadn't eaten the showbread, they would have been all dead. So that's why they were allowed to eat the bread. So Torah is about life, not about killing people. So therefore you can't come and tell me something new over here. So I said King David was just a king. He's a king. And you've got to treat him as a king. And I said King David had to go. He had a go-to man. The go-to man was the priest, high priest. And that go-to man was the man that he went to. And I said, the man you talking about that came to Abraham. He said, didn't that man came to Abraham? Sure he came to Abraham. I said, you will know who he is. He's Shem. I said, if Shem came to Abraham, he said, yeah, that was Shem. So I said, who was Shem? I said, Shem was the king. Melchizedek, righteous king. That's all it meant. He wasn't some new priesthood or some old priesthood. And I said, what did Shem do? He said, didn't Shem collect tithes? I said, no, Shem gave tithes to Abraham. You are completely reading it wrong. People talk to me over here and I knock them for 6. Every time they come to me, they get a knock on 6. And they don't know how to answer. And so they're upset because they want me to verify their Christian doctrines. And I'm saying, no. I'm not here to verify your Christian doctrines. I am here to verify the doctrines of Moses, the doctrines of the prophets. That's what I'm here to verify, and that's all I'm going to verify. So the point is that people over here, they want their ears tickled. And I'm not here to tickle their ears. So they have a huge problem on their hand. They've never seen a Kohen in their life. And, some of them, my goodness, some of them like, wow, we don't know what to say. We've never met a Kohen before. We've never even seen an Israelite before in our life. So they are dealing with some tough times over here. Tough times. The so-called Messianics over here, they're having a tough time with me because they don't have answers to my questions. And when they give me a question, I throw them, not just one, I should throw them 3 answers. And so I tell them that without a Kohen, there is no king. Without a Kohen, there will be no king. So who are you going to go to? So I said that if we go to Hebrew Matthew, if we go to Shem Tov, the Matthew that Shem Tov had, and the one that was in Hebrew, I said he actually places John the Baptist higher, not Jesus of Nazareth. Go read it. He raises up John the Baptist, and the John the Baptist was from a Levite family. He's the one who baptizes so-called Messiah. So who's higher? The one who baptizes or the one who baptizes? Think about it. Would the person who baptizes you is higher, or would the person who's being baptized is higher? So it's a big question. And then at the end of the day, Levites always had a position. Levites always had a say. And Levites always were, they were always prominent, always. Even in the New Testament, the Levites, are made prominent, but people ignore them. People deliberately ignore them because they don't want to accept the true priesthood of Yahweh is the Levite priesthood. The man said to me, how does the Levite priesthood fulfill their priesthood? when there's no temple? And I said, who told you that we need a temple? He didn't have an answer for that. That's all is the answer that you need. Somebody says to you, how are you going to fulfill your priesthood? I said, who told you that I need a temple to stand in? I can go anywhere in the world and I can be still a priest. I can be in Pakistan a priest, I can be in UK a priest, and I can be in USA a priest. What changes? Nothing changes. I'm the same person. Where does it say in the Torah that a priest needs a temple? There is none. Because we had priesthood many thousands of years before the temple. So people are getting a little ticking behind the ears over here. And so I get people coming to me, many times. I get people coming to me from left side and from right side, and they're telling me, it's a breath of fresh air that you're here. My goodness, God has really sent you to the right time. And I have Muslims, over here who are my students. Muslims are inviting me to their homes over here. And they are my biggest supporters over here at the end of the day. And Christians, and there are some Christians as well who are my supporters, who are my students. I'm intending to go to another city over here, and a Muslim guy, he phoned me, and he said to me, he's a student of mine, he said to me, come to my house. How many days are you going to stay? Come and stay with me. How many people are getting that treatment? Think about that. Think about where I am, and think about the culture, and think about the people. Yet, God is with me. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. It's amazing. It's totally amazing what's happening over here. So the point being, we got to raise up the Torah. We got to raise the flag of the Torah. We are the children of Israel. We are Bnai Israel. We are not some Christian sect, to be treated like a Christian sect. We are Bnai Israel. And we got to uphold our Torah. The very laws that Moses penned for us, for all times. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing the way that God blesses you. It's truly amazing. Which doors open up is truly amazing. It's truly amazing when you follow the laws of the Torah, when you do what you're supposed to do, you're going to see miracles in your life. You're going to see changes. But those changes are not going to be shown to you otherwise. So Jesus, the character of Jesus was a person. If you want to take him as a person, he taught Torah. He didn't create some new religion and said, I am God, come worship me. That's the problem. Christianity just went, right wing, making him into some God, and then, trying to worship him. There is no commandment in the Torah that says worship Jesus. If that's what you want to do, if that's what gives you joy, then go ahead, do it. I'm certainly not doing it. I don't have no authority, and I don't have no commandment in the 5 books of Moses that say, Simon, go and worship Jesus. I don't have that, and I'm not going to do that. So, we must take the words of the New Testament for what they are. A lot of it is symbolic. We must take it for symbolic. Otherwise, you're going to have to create a hell to send people to. You're going to have to create a heaven to send people to. Otherwise, you're going to have all sorts of problems when you read the books of the New Testament. Because there is no hell. There is no heaven. God is going to recreate the third temple on the earth where we live, back in Israel. God's going to gather the 12 tribes here on this planet. He's not taking the 12 tribes, into Mars in some fantasy hell or some fantasy heaven. That's what people want to believe. Then they got a long thing coming. They got a long thing coming. If you think you're going to go to Mars and there's heaven beyond Mars and you're going to live there, you got a wake up call. There is no heaven beyond Mars. There is eternity outside of this universe, but God lives there. The powers, the lights, Allah, Elohim, the plurality of lights lives there. But what is God? We don't know. What is God? What is God? Is he a man? Is God a man that he will lie? Torah says no. Torah says God is not a man that he should lie. Even the book of Samuel says the glory of Israel is not a man. So, if you want to make the glory of God a man, be my guest. Go join a church. But I certainly won't be. I certainly won't be making the glory of Israel. A man came to illustrate Torah, but did not come to say, give me worship, pay me homage. Such a misunderstood character. Such a misunderstood character. And yet people are dealing with this all the time over here. People want to have tickled ears. And we can't tickle their ears. We have to tell them the truth on the ground. We are Israel. If we start perverting the word of God, if we start perverting the Torah, what will the nations say? Remember what God said. When you obey the Torah, when you have these laws, the nations will say, this is a wise people. But when we depart from that Torah, what will the people say? These are not wise people. So it's very important to understand that we must be very serious about who we are as a people. We need to find our identity first before we tell other people what their identity is. So with that, if you want your desires met, there's a number of things that you have to do. First, rectify your Torah. If you want the blessings of God in your life, rectify your Torah. You may not be perfect, and you don't need to be 100% perfect. Your start and your walk and your run into the Torah will be what will make you perfect. And then you'll start seeing that things will start to roll, and things will start to happen, and things will start to fit like a jigsaw puzzle. And then everything you do will be blessed. Everything you do will be blessed by your hands. And the whole idea of this, burning the smoke in the morning with the camphor, the frankincense, the myrrh, the whole idea behind that is to rectify Torah. How many churches are teaching you that? How many synagogues are teaching you that? I haven't heard of any synagogue talking about it. I haven't heard any church talking about it. So you really need to rectify Torah in your life. And you're going to start with your home. Your home is your palace. You start with your home. When you start rectifying Torah, you start rectifying your tithes, your tzedakah, your festivals, your Shabbats. When you start rectifying all those items, now you're going to see where your life's going to go. And you're going to become the man that God said you will be, and the woman you will be. What did He say? You will be above all the nations of the earth. You will be the head and not the tail. And if you're still the tail, then maybe there's some place that you need to rectify Torah in your life. You can't be the tail. If you're Israel, you can't be the tail. You have to be the head. You have to be the head. I can give you testimony after testimony. I'm the head over here. I'm not the tail. I am the head. I go places and people tell me to go forward, go in front. Why? Because I have rectified the Torah in my life for myself and for others. I don't wait in queues over here. People don't, people call out to me if I'm in a queue, and they take me ahead of the queue. Not because I say take me ahead of the queue. They just take me. It's God's blessings. It's in my life. It's all over the place. All over the place. Even policemen, military, everybody. It shows itself all over the place. It's like a magnet. People come to you like a magnet. And they want to know you, and they want to know who you are and where you come from. That's because of the Torah. That's not because I did something special. That's because I did the right thing. I straightened Torah in my life. And when you do that, you will have the same effect. People will be drawn to you like a magnet. So fix the Torah, and you will captivate. You will get the things that you desire. Remember I said discipline. What does discipline mean? Well, in military terms, discipline is that you set yourself a time to wake up, you set yourself a time to sleep, You set yourself a time to study. You set yourself time to work. You set yourself time to do other things. That's discipline. You say to yourself, okay, I'm going to get up 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to do my, my sounds, creation sounds. You do your creation sounds. You do your meditation. You say you're going to do your meditation. Don't take long. What's 15 minutes of lifetime, of your life? What's 15 minutes if that's going to give you a life ahead to talk about? So even if you spend an hour, what's an hour of your life? Out of 24 hours, if you take 1 hour and you spend it on yourself to better your life, and you fix yourself, you fix your Torah, what is that? Ask yourself, what is that 1 hour worth to you? And if that 1 hour is worth to you a life, then you will definitely be there doing it. That's discipline. And if you go to bed at night, listening to affirmations, and you're making the time during the day to maybe speak your affirmations, and you're making sure that things are right in your home where you live, things are pointed in the right direction, that you're doing the right thing, then these are little things, but these little things will make a big difference in your life. Huge difference. Because, in America you have it easy. In England you have it easy. In France you have it easy. You don't have to worry about the electricity going out. You don't have to worry about your tap shutting down. You don't have to worry about anything. You got constant internet. You got constant water, constant electricity. So there's no excuse. You don't have an excuse. You know what? Over here, when I was in America, I had a hard time trying to take a cold shower. I did it, but I had a hard time doing it because I wasn't used to it. I was used to the hot water, coming out of the tap, warm water. I didn't even take extremely hot water or just hot. I didn't even take hot water. I wasn't used to just hot water. I was used to taking showers with mild hot water. So when I would shut it down to cold, I had to get used to it. It's like a little bit freezing, even in the summer. But I came over here, and there's no hot water in the tap. In the home, it's only cold water from the river down the road. There's a stream, and the water comes from there. It's cold. And you know what? I take it in the morning, and I dunk it. I dunk the bucket over me. Boom, boom, boom. 5, 6, big scoops, and I'm done. That's my shower in the morning. And the best thing about that is that the cold water, you know what it does? It activates your body. It activates your body. So if you can take a cold shower, and I don't mean very cold water, I mean just the general, my water here is cold, I tell you, and it becomes even colder in the winter, I hear. But your cold water should be just regular cold water, regular, not freezing cold. If you can shower with regular cold water at least a couple of times a week, you may not be able to do it every day. I have to do it every day over here, and I've got used to it. But if you can even do it for twice a week, that, by the way, will activate your nervous system. It resets it. Scientifically, it will reset your nervous system when you do that. And your body's reset. And now you're ready for your affirmations. You're ready to do your chanting. You're ready to do your 108 beads. It's just great. It's wonderful. It definitely is something to get used to. It's very hard to get used to in America and England because, people are used to having a warm water shower. Hot water straight, turn the hot water on and boom, 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 hot water turning up, and people just don't think twice about it. But hot water is absolutely terrible to have a shower with. It's actually not good for you. A lot of people don't know that. People love to go under the water and have hot water showers. It's not good for your central nervous system. Look at the amount of disease that we have in America as a result of that. So, if you can, maybe you can't do it 7 days a week. Maybe you can only do it 3 days a week. Take a cold shower. Reset your nervous system. It's like a computer rebooting When we reboot a computer, it flushes out the memory. It cleans itself. It restarts fresh. You've got to do the same thing for yourself. You'll feel great afterwards. And you'll sit fresh. And you'll do your affirmations. You'll do your other things. You read your Siddur. If you have the Siddur, I highly encourage you to read it every day. Read the Asher Yadzad prayer. I have a student over here who's struggling with some problems, health problems. He's a young man. He's not even 34 years old yet. He's a young man. He's struggling with some health issues. And I told him, I said, read Asher Yadzad every morning. Religiously. And he said, I will do that. Did you hear that Panther guy died? I heard that the Black Panther actor, he died recently. He was only 43 years old. I mean, look at it. 43-year-old man died from, colon cancer or something? Healthy, in a healthy country. In a, country that has everything. People are dying left, right and center from cancer. You got to ask yourself, why? Why are people dying from cancer? It's what they're doing around themselves. It's all that luxury lifestyle and all these hot showers and all these, different foods that they eat. These are creating diseases. Be wary about, be careful about what you do, how you live your life. Be careful about that. Sorry about that, James 212. James is saying that not to get off base, just what the family to know. I lost my mother on the 10th of this month from liver cancer. I'm really sorry to hear that. But again, liver cancer, I do hear about liver cancer a lot in the West. And again, I got to emphasize, liver cancer is from the lifestyle that people live. I mean, I don't know what kind of lifestyle your mom lived, James, but, commiserations about your mom. It's not a good thing. Losing relatives, they're probably not even that old yet to die. People die. May God give her peace, grant her peace. She will be back. She will be reincarnated. So don't worry about it. She's not going to know heaven and hell place. She's actually going up and she's going to come right back in another body, reincarnated. Probably in a couple of months' time she'll be back. So you just do your, you do your prayers for her. They're all in the Siddur. And you wait for her return. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. She's in the safe hands. She's in the heavenly, she's with angels. And God knows what to do with her. God will take care of her. He's just going to reset her. He's going to reset her and send her right back. She won't even remember that she died. Come back as a new baby. So Baruch Hashem for that. So as I say, mend your Torah. Fix your Torah. When you fix your Torah, and you're going to do it piecemeal. You're going to do it small bits at time. And as you fix it, you're going to find that you're going to be in a great place. I mean, Rabbi Kefa has a great time bringing up a little kid. I mean, it's a great opportunity to bring up a little child all the way up into Torah, and he will be fully ready. You will know how to use the manifesting law. He's coming real strong. That kid will have a lot of potential as he grows up, because he'll be learning all the right things to do. And if you were given that opportunity, you'd probably be in the same position, but some of you have come late. But still, you're here, so you have the opportunity to teach your children and yourself. So, fix the Torah, heed the voice of the Kohen. The more you fix the Torah, the more healthier you're going to get, the more abundance you're going to receive. Remember, little things matter. As we said, get a fountain in your home. Make sure it faces the right direction. And if you're having directional issues, there's other things you can do in your home. If you want to have good relationship with your wife, bring some elephants, pictures of elephants, and bring a cluster of elephants and put the pictures up in your bedroom. It will help your love relationships. It will mend your family relationships and family ties. I live in a city over here that has horses everywhere. Like horses standing up, with legs standing up, 2 horses, 4 horses, really great picture. I really like that over here, because that means something. The horse is bringing in energy, and there's places here with big eagles, wings spread, real good picture. Like a real good image. They got that in this city. They got horses everywhere. I think this is brilliant. It's absolutely great. This city has a lot of life where I am, a lot of life and a lot of wealth. It's actually a golden triangle of this country. It's counted as one of the golden triangle cities of this country. So it's an amazing place. I like it. Baruch Hashem Yahweh, God brought me here. Out of the 3 cities of Pakistan, these are the golden triangle cities. You can find everything here. They produce everything here. A lot of factories over here. A lot of industry. And then right next door they have the other industry that produces all kinds of sports gear, footballs, bats, balls, you name it, they produce it and they ship it out to the world. So a lot of that's going on next door. So all great stuff. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Well, the city is called Gujranwala. And Sialkot is the other city where they produce all the cricket and the sporting goods. So Gujranwala is an industrial hub of Pakistan. And in Karachi, and one of the big cities, there was all sorts of flooding over there. Cars were like half stuck in water because it's been raining. It's a monsoon season. But here, guess what? We have we had rain over here, but there's no water standing over here. It's all clear. It's all clear. God really knows where to put the Kohen. Wherever He puts the Kohen, blessings follow. Blessings follow in that city. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. So we serve the great God of Israel, and great things are happening all around us. You guys are into elections over there in the US, November elections. So you have to deal with the hurricanes over there, Hurricane Laura that I was told about recently hit parts of Louisiana, and also there was another hurricane behind that was kind of coming from the Caribbean as well. So look out for yourself. Keep the Torah. Lift up the Torah with your hands. Lift it up, and the way you lift it up is by what you do. I'm not talking about lifting a book. I'm definitely not talking about lifting a book. It's what we do as the house of Israel. It's what we do that lifts up the Torah. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Take care of yourselves. Have a great Shabbat and a great week ahead. Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to you.